Thank you, Acting Speaker. I rise to speak on the Children, Youth and Families Amendment, supporting Stable and Strong Families Bill 2025. Parliament should start with the children and young people at the centre of this system, kids who've already had far too much instability in their lives. If the state takes responsibility for a child, it is not good enough to say that's child protection's problem. Outcomes for vulnerable children are shaped by housing, health, education, justice, disability supports, mental health services, and, holding it all together, the coordination between them. That's one of the reasons I got involved in politics in the first place, growing up in Horsham. I strongly believe that kids should have an opportunity to aspire and to achieve in life, no matter their background, no matter their postcode, their socioeconomic circumstances, or the family that they're born into. And we as a parliament must be doing everything in our power to create equality of opportunity for kids right across our state and beyond. Now, going into this bill, there are, of course, parts of this bill we welcome in principle. First, it recognises the need for shared responsibility across portfolios, not just the child protection portfolio. Second, it deliberately includes care leavers up to 25, which reflects what the sector has said for years. The transition out of care is a cliff, and if we don't support young people into stable adulthood, we entrench disadvantage. Finally, it proposes planning and reporting intended to lift transparency so Parliament and the community can see whether government is actually improving outcomes in areas like health, education, housing, justice and employment. Sadly, though, good intentions do not substitute good design. The biggest problem with this bill is simple. It is heavy on process, light on accountability and riddled with escape hatches. The bill explicitly provides that Parliament does not intend to create legal rights, civil causes of action or even grounds for review of administrative acts or omissions. In other words, if the system fails a child, again, this scheme does not give that child, that family or that care leaver any enforceable remedy. Worse still, the bill then goes further and builds in an override mechanism if these new responsibilities conflict or are incompatible with other functions or priorities, the other functions prevail. The practical effect is that agencies can say, yes, we support the scheme, and then when it gets hard, say, sorry, not today, not in our core business, not in our budget, not with our priorities. That is not accountability. That is a policy press release dressed up as legislation. Second, this leads to another major issue, bureaucracy over outcomes. The government points to Scotland's corporate parenting model as an inspiration, but Scotland's model is not just plans and reports. It actually imposes duties on corporate parents, and it expressly expects public bodies to collaborate with one another when exercising those responsibilities. By contrast, this Victorian bill makes joint planning optional, and coordination is largely left to guidance and goodwill. Third and finally, there seems to be a significant gap between this whole-of-government rhetoric the Allan Labor government is pushing and reality. Yes, the bill designates partners across government, and yes, it expands the advisory role of the Children's Services Coordination Board, but the board remains advisory. It cannot compel coordination, it cannot compel implementation, and it cannot force action when outcomes are going backwards. Now, it is telling that even stakeholders who broadly support the intent, like the Foster Care Association of Victoria and the Centre for Excellence in Child and Family Welfare, still raise concerns about whether a framework like this will translate into real, measurable change for children on the ground. That is exactly the point. The sector wants outcomes, not paperwork. Now, we have heard this whole-of-government language before, and the reason many Victorians approach another new framework with scepticism is that this parliament has seen inquiry after inquiry, report after report, identifying the same systemic failures, and yet, too often, the follow-through has been inadequate. The Auditor-General has warned about the fundamentals, including whether government even has the quality of information it needs to identify risk, track children's circumstances, and ensure accountability for outcomes. The Commission for Children and Young People has also made clear that children in out-of-home care are still being failed by systems that should be wrapping around them, including education, with dozens of recommendations made to government to fix what is not working. Not to mention, more broadly speaking, Victorians just simply do not trust this government to protect their children. After nearly 12 years in power, this Labor government under Alan, our Premier now, wants you to believe that it has turned the corner on child protection. It should start with the truth. The system has been under strain for years. The Commission for Children and Young People reports that the number of children and young people living in care rose from about 7,800 in 2018 to about 8,800 in 2012, a 13% increase. Over the same period, foster care placements fell from about 1,600 to 1,450, while residential care rose from 461 to 503. And the outcomes aren't good. Children in care have Year 12 retention around 25%, compared with 82% for the general cohort. Workforce pressure is real. The Victorian Auditor-General found over 3,100 children were waiting to be allocated a practitioner as at May 2022, and reported workforce vacancies rising to 13.9%, around 305 vacant positions. Most disturbing of all, the Commission has reported hundreds of sexual exploitation cases in recent years, including grooming with drugs and money. Behind every statistic, Acting Speaker, in this system is a child with a name, a life, and a future that can be permanently altered by government failure. Just in January this year, a child became pregnant at just 13 years old while living in state residential care after reporting sexual assault, and her mother describing how her children stopped going to school and spiralled into substance use and disengagement while under the state's guardianship. And we now have reporting that in some residential homes, staff feared being exposed to methamphetamine with internal instructions to wear masks if young people were actively using ice nearby. Yet even after this Labor government puts forth a bill that tells departments to get along with each other. Victorians deserve more than this. And it could be much better than this if this government wasn't wasting, say, $15 billion on CFMEU and other corruption under their watch. Taxpayers, instead of this money being spent on strippers and others, this money could have actually been better put towards child protection systems, supporting families, boosting child protection workers, and much more. Now, on my final remarks on this bill, ultimately we will not oppose the bill in the Assembly because the aim stronger cross-government responsibility for children in and leaving care is sound, and because there is potential upside if done properly. But we will put our concerns on the record today and will assess in the Council whether the government is willing to accept the changes that make this scheme real and tangible rather than symbolic. Indeed, we must, 1, mandate collaboration rather than merely encouraging it. 2, we must tighten the escape clauses so conflict with priorities cannot become an excuse for inaction. 3, we must make outcome measures transparent, timely and comparable, with clear baselines so Parliament can track whether things are improving, not just whether documents were tabled. 4th, we need to build stronger independent oversight, not just an independent review in 5 years, because 5 years is a lifetime for a child. 5th, we must fund implementation, not administration, because you cannot report your way to safer kids. You need workforce capability and capacity, placement stability supports, mental health services, family violence responses and housing pathways. Finally, Acting Speaker, I want to make a broader point the government should hear. This Parliament has seen too many framework bills that create plans, strategies and reporting architectures, while frontline services remain stretched and vulnerable children remain the ones who wear the consequences. This Labor government must accept stronger accountability, require real collaboration, fund the work and prove through outcomes, not optics, that Victoria is capable of delivering stability, safety and a genuine future for children and care leavers. Because children in care, much as with any child in Victoria, in Australia or around the world, deserves the best opportunities in life. They deserve the opportunity to aim towards their dreams, to aspire, to use their gifts in life and to find their purpose. We must give them the best opportunity, and I call on this government to do so.
Member